Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 669. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, as a coach, I use and observe transactive memory all the time. Used wisely, transactive memory means a team can be more than just the sum of its individual members. Mess it up, and you might as well put your hand in a running garbage disposal. Picture that. For example, my wife remembers things like special events and then clues me in if she's around. This year, I missed an important birthday. Coaches and Scrum Masters often act as the official process memory for teams until they move on. You can guess what comes next. This week, we explore when transactive memory works and when it doesn't. Also, Jeremy Berriault and I discuss helping improve Daily Scrums in his QA Corner column. Note, I've been made aware that SPaMCAST 667 is missing in action. I'm trying to track the issue down, and we'll get that back up as soon as possible. In upcoming events, Tom Henriksen delivers one of the most innovative online conferences. This year, he has upped the bar again. Please join the premier Agile online conference, the Agile Online Summit, from October 25th through the 27th. There's a link in the show notes to register. Please use it. And even if you don't, go to the website, register. It's really going to be a great 3-day event. Transactive memory and Agile an overview. I spend a lot of time studying individuals and teams in a quest to help them learn how to deliver more value. One of the most common failure scenarios I observe is that once organizations have reached a decent level of effectiveness, someone will leave and the whole thing will come tumbling down. I'm not trying to suggest that turnover and change should be stamped out. I actually think it's healthy. But rather, something else is amiss. Several years ago, I was able to study the implementation of an Agile scaling methodology in a Fortune 100 company. The study looked at quality, productivity, and cycle time across 15 product lines. In every case, the metrics fell during implementation, and that was expected, then improved spectacularly in the second year. Over 80% improvement in every metric. Unfortunately, things got murkier when the consultants supporting the change were withdrawn and sent elsewhere. The metrics fell by 30 to 50% from that high water mark. I'm not arguing that consultants should be permanently ensconced in any organization. That's unhealthy. But rather, something else is amiss. Recently, I forgot to call my father on his birthday. My wife remembers things like special events, then clues me in if she's around. This time, she was not. The what's amiss in all three of these scenarios is a reflection of the risks of transactive memory. A simple explanation of transactive memory is that teams store certain memories in one person, then create a framework so that everyone knows the go-to person for that memory. In my immediate family for birthdays, it's my wife. In the larger family unit, it's my father. On a team, one person might be the ace of database joins. Another might be the person that understands how to manipulate Jenkins. And another, the guru of the Scrum ceremonies. The list could go on, obviously. The team has a meta understanding of who has the skills and memories so that everyone does not have to know everything. The sum of the team in this case is greater than the individual parts. Transactive memory is why teams can be very efficient and effective when tackling problems that would stump an individual. Whether facilitating an Agile transformation or coaching a team on Scrum or Kanban, transactive memory is a tool almost every coach uses. The technique is useful for several reasons. 1, not everyone has to be the master of all tasks. 2, Scrum Masters and Agile coaches can focus on keeping up to date with the Agile concepts and ideas. meaning that other people don't have to go to all of those conferences. They can go to the ones on Jenkins. Long-term use of transactive memory to facilitate change causes problems because, one, it generates codependency for the organization or team on the coach or Scrum Master. Two, it risks backsliding when the keeper of the process knowledge leaves. Doesn't that almost feel like you're generating a cult? Things break down when the transactive memory system is disrupted. This occurs because of people problems due to, one, team members change without proper turnover. Two, dynamic matrix teams where change happens when teams are reimagined for a new project. And you can't tell me that doesn't happen anymore because I see it all the time in organizations. Three, transitory team members, contractors and consultants that are not invested in knowledge transfer. All three of these scenarios are people problems, and that's the heart and the root of where transactive memory can go bad. Anything that disrupts the relationships between people in teams and organizations is not a friend to transactive memory. Many of the light touch documentation approaches common in Agile assume stable teams that can leverage transactive memory. In many organizations, stable teams are about as true as the tooth fairy. We're going to get deeper into this as the year wanes. So look forward to more on that. And I'd like to have your examples and hear your stories about where transactive memory worked and where transactive memory failed. Thoughts, comments, and questions, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out at spamcastinfo@gmail.com or leave a message at 01440-668-5717. We look forward to the conversation.
Hi, I'm Tom Henriksen from the Agile Online Summit, and I want to invite you to join us on October 25th through the 27th this year. And we're going to have an exciting conference. Now, it is our 5th edition, so of course, it's our 5th edition. We have to do something even better. So we've taken the original format and we actually have included someone this year who's going to help us coach the track chairs. We're going to build in more engagement. So I think you're going to want to join us for the Agile Online Summit on October 25th.
Jeremy Berriault, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. Jeremy, your QA Corner highlight of the month today.
Oh, beauty.
Jeremy, you want to stand up for this?
Are we going to stand up for this?
Yeah, we could. I have a standing desk.
I don't. And I have a dog that's probably going to be jumping on me if I get out of this chair.
Okay, so we won't stand up for the stand-up discussion. Jeremy, I'd like to spend... Yeah, we both consult, we both work in transformations, daily scrums, stand-up meetings, huddles. I don't care what you call these things. They turn into status meetings. Help me.
Yeah. Been there. Yeah, and I think
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt?
Bought the t-shirt. Enjoyed the ride. Yeah, and that it always kind of interests me as to why it would degrade into that fashion. Because again, you and I, we consult and transform and help organizations and teams, and we promote saying, okay, daily stand up. This is what you got to do. Here's what your 3 main questions. Anything outside of that, if you're talking about stories, nope, offline. Grooming meetings, whatever you want to use, and you work with them to figure out what's the best way for them to do it. But the daily stand-ups is basically to understand and help the teams function together and know what everything is going on to a point where it's not kind of turning into a session where it's like, well, I did this, and I have 15 stories that are doing this and blah, 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 blah.
But Jeremy, I'm using Jira. It's in the right column. That's all I have to say, right?
Well, for one point, like what you're going to remember, the 3 questions, right?
Well, the 3 questions are an artifact of, I think, a misinterpretation of the Scrum Guide. There's never had to be 3 questions. And the 3 questions that people also use, they made damn sure by making sure they weren't in the most current Scrum Guide.
Oh, yes, the most current Scrum Guide. And I did review it, and I guess I'm still in the old I'm still in the old way. I'm trying to transfer over. The cold weather is making the brain run a little slow.
Well, but you're right. People, what did I do yesterday? What did I do? What am I going to do today? What are the blockers? There is no way in God's earth that doesn't become a status meeting.
Well, in the looking back and breaking it down, yeah, you are providing some sort of status. You are. But the way the answer should be there, the way the team should function is normally in status meetings, the ones that I've been in, I'm sure you've been in as well, is someone will say something and then someone will say something on top of that, and then they'll just kind of snowball and not really keep the focus on what the intent of the meeting is. The intent of the meeting is for the team to ensure that everyone's getting their work done. Everyone understands if there are blockers and how they can help them outside of that meeting, or what the Scrum Master could do if he or she is there to remove those impediments, or how to let the Scrum Master know that there are certain impediments that need to be functioned or need to be worked on. So yes, it is a status, but I think it's what are you expected to get out of it so that when you leave that 15 minutes.
What is it when you say, and the team works, the team functions? What is that? What is that?
To me, like, it's all about, like, the way I see it is from a flow. So the daily stand-up is to ensure there's a continuation of flow and nothing is blocking that flow from getting the work done. When you're looking at a lot of either impediments or stuff that people are kind of getting stuck and doing things, then the flow is not there. And then the stand-up is not doing what it should be doing. The individuals and roles and the team working together is not doing what they should be doing to ensure that flow is still there. So the flow is important because, like, the daily stand-up is there, really. If you look at it from a grand scheme of things, the daily stand-up is to ensure that that flow is consistent and information or work is continuously flowing there, and that there's nothing blocking that flow or creating a bottleneck within that flow. And that the teams, the Scrum Master, anyone else that is helping remove impediments is understanding of what they are so that they can keep that flow going. A good example is one of my clients is a software and hardware company. So they have separate teams working together. One team's doing software, one team's doing hardware. And when I came in, there were points within the sprints where the software teams were literally sitting there doing nothing, waiting for a hardware team to finish building something, finish building a component. And going through, we found that their daily stand-ups were technically just status meetings, and no one was taking the information to try to remove any impediments or to make things better to ensure that there is a flow. And that is when working with them, we found ways to not only ensure that everyone was working, like things were being done and being done of high value, but an effective way for the teams to work together to get, like, the hardware and software teams to run and run well. And, like, one of the biggest kind of stumbling blocks we had in doing that was the software team ran sprints of 2 weeks and the hardware team ran sprints of a month, of 4 weeks. So trying to get them synchronized was a bit of a challenge, but we got through it because I had them understand that flow, and that the daily stand-up is to ensure that flow is there.
It'd be even more fun if they actually had variable sprints, sprint durations. This week it'll be 3 days. Next week it'll be 2 weeks. The week after that it'll be 3 weeks, and because if we don't get something done, we'll just keep the sprint going for a period of time. But regardless, that's
another conversation.
That's another conversation. Okay, so we're focused on flow. I like focusing on flow. What's the value of a stand-up if everybody is just doing their own tickets? There really isn't an overall project. You really don't have a sprint goal. It's just everybody doing their own thing.
The interesting thing is I'm about to write a business case on that. Another team I worked with, they weren't building software. It was kind of like a knowledge group. They wanted to drive out processes across, and they had daily stand-ups and literally that's what it was. Like each person said, I did this yesterday, I'm doing this today, and I'm probably going to do this tomorrow. That's really what it was. But there was no interaction within the team. So
why? What value did they get out of that?
They didn't. And that's the thing. And that's part of the business case is they were doing this as a daily stand-up, and then the daily stand-up turned into, okay, we're going to do one every 3 days. We're going to do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then over time, they did it. Okay, we're just going to do it Tuesday and Thursday. We're just going to have one big meeting to see what's going on. What they were trying to do was they were trying to cram Scrum into an environment where Scrum just wouldn't really fit the need and get that value out of them. The value that they got was to have a Kanban board and run Kanban. And that was a much easier way for them to understand and to know where all the work is going. And they would see who was doing what and when. And if there was any sort of deadlines or anything like that, they needed to meet, and they saw where the work, or like kind of work in progress, whatever you want to call it, they can kind of jump with each other, jump on, help people out, and get the work done.
What value is that if everybody has a different specialty and works on their own tickets? They pull from their own queue, let's say, or they've got them all assigned to them. Why does it matter what anybody else is doing? Because they can't help them.
Well, they could to a point. Now, this team, yes, there was like one person that was responsible for the QA stuff. One person like for the QA processes, when they were doing SDLC. One person was responsible for development. One person for business analyst. Even though they were experts in their domain for that team, it didn't mean that other individuals didn't understand what they were doing. They didn't understand why things needed to get done. And depending on the work, they could provide some help. Now, if you're in a team where everything's completely siloed and they're just pulling off work and doing what they want, I don't see a lot of value. I would have to kind of look at it a little bit more and see where we can get that value. But it could be that team is just not it's not a team because no one's working together. No one's really helping each other. Just kind of siloed, and I'm doing my work, and I don't care what Jane Doe is doing because she's doing her thing. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, I get that most of our agile processes are premised on cross-functional teams, people working together, sprint goals, not collections of people that are called teams, which I think if we were honest with each other for a second, we could look through the majority or a great number of the teams that we've seen or worked with over the years and recognize that they call them teams, but they weren't really working toward a common goal. Everybody was working on their own piece of work, their own project. a lot of times I don't know whether the things that we tell them, do a stand-up. Well, great. If I can do my email while you're telling me whatever the three things that you're telling me are, right? And we won't, whether it's a status or not. If I can do my email, then I ought not to be there.
Very true. Yes. If you're not there to see how everything is going, why everything being built and why everyone's doing what they're doing. If you're focused on, if you pick up your phone and look at Facebook or Twitter or a web page while you're in the middle of the stand-up, then you're not needed in that stand-up. Or you're not doing you're not having the right behaviors that you expect from that teammate to make everyone else better and help everyone else. Then that's another issue altogether.
Okay, so we have some anti-patterns in this circumstance that we have to deal with. Jeremy, next month I would like you to write down and let's talk about how we do a valuable stand-up in a typical IT team, right? A typical IT team that isn't a product team, that's doing tickets, that's doing a whole bunch of small enhancements, and they may or may not have anything to do with each other. Let's figure out how to make that work.
You got it.
All right, Jeremy Berriault, bringer of the QA Corner, pundit, transformer, consultant. Thank you for sharing with the listeners to the Software Process Measurement Cast. Jeremy, where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn. I search for my name, Jeremy Berriault, or for my firm, Berriault and Associates. We have a separate page there. I can be reached out on Twitter @jberriault, or you can reach me through email, jberriault@berriaultandassociates.com.
Super. Thanks again, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
In Reread Saturday News, this week we begin our reread of Mick Kirsten's Project to Product. I'm reading from my Kindle version, published by IT Revolution. By the way, buy a copy. Support the author. Today we are tackling the front matter, which includes the foreword by Gene Kim, author of DevOps Handbook, and the introduction, which is titled The Turning Point. In past rereads, I have argued strongly that jumping immediately to the core of the book, the numbered chapters generally, is a mistake. Again, I urge you not to make that mistake. Next week, we discussed the ADAPT methodology with Luis Goncalves. We discussed how using a framework can help leaders stay relevant. Based on the discussion of long-wave economic models in this week's Reread Saturday, Mr. Goncalves' ideas provide a useful framework for building a more robust change model as we approach a more competitive part of the long-term cycle. It's exciting to see the explosion of new ideas synthesizing practical experience and theory coming to market. Luis points out perhaps the lockdowns during the pandemic have a silver lining. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?